Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into something that could honestly change everything. The rise of generative AI as a personal tutor for basically everyone on the planet.
All right, let's just start with a crazy thought experiment. What if you could have your own personal world-class tutor? I'm talking one-on-one, available 24/7, perfectly customized to how you learn. Now, what if every single person on Earth had that?
And here's the wild part. This isn't some futuristic dream we're talking about. I mean, just a couple of years ago, yeah, total sci-fi. But today, this is actually happening. Generative AI is turning this concept into a real thing we can all use. So how do we really know this works? It sounds great in theory, but where's the proof? Well, let's dig into the first big breakthroughs and look at the hard evidence. Researchers have been putting these AI tutors to the test in some of the most demanding fields you can imagine. We're going to look at two really important studies, one on learning surgery and another on learning how to code. Okay, first up, the medical field. In 2022, a study across 4 major universities in Canada took 70 medical students to see how they learned surgical skills. The result was absolutely stunning. The students who used an AI tutor performed at the exact same level as the students taught by a human expert. Think about that. No statistical difference at all.
Then, the very next year, Microsoft and the Max Planck Institute did something similar for coding. They used GPT-4, and what they found was that it's an incredible programming tutor. The official paper says it drastically outperforms older AI models. And, this is the key part, it approaches human tutor performance. So that's 2 for 2, right? Incredibly different, highly complex fields, and the AI is right there with the human expert.
And this is where it gets truly insane. The most disruptive part isn't just the performance, it's the cost. An AI tutor can deliver this world-class human-level teaching for as little as 1% of the yearly cost of a human tutor. This isn't a small improvement. This completely changes the entire economics of learning. Okay, fine. So it works in a controlled lab study. Big deal, right? But what about the real world? Can it actually work in completely different environments? Well, let's take a look, because the answer takes us from a high school in Nigeria all the way to Harvard University. And this is just a fascinating contrast. On one side, you have a World Bank program testing AI tutors in an after-school program for high schoolers in Nigeria. On the other, you've got a rigorous trial in a huge undergraduate physics course at Harvard. You couldn't pick 2 more different places. One proves that this is accessible and can work anywhere. The other proves it's effective at the absolute highest levels of education. So let's look at the data from Nigeria first. This chart tells a really clear story. That yellow curve, that's the control group, the students without the AI. Now look at the teal curve, the one for students who used the AI tutor. See how it shifted way over to the right? That shift, that represents a huge improvement in what they learned.
So just how big was that improvement? The study measured it as a learning gain of 0.3 standard deviations. Now, I know that sounds like a boring technical number, but trust me, in the world of education research, that is a massive deal.
In fact, let me just translate that for you. A 0.3 standard deviation jump is basically the equivalent of gaining 2 full years of normal learning. And the students in Nigeria did that after just 6 weeks in an after-school program. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Now let's jump over to Harvard. This chart shows the knowledge gains in that physics course. The bar on the left is the baseline. That middle bar shows how much students learn from a standard modern interactive lecture. But then, look at the bar on the far right. That's the group that used the AI tutor. It's not even a contest. The gain is just dramatically higher. So, the bottom line here is this. Even at Harvard, surrounded by some of the brightest students in the world, the AI tutor was a game changer. These students learned more than twice as much stuff in less time compared to what they'd get in a cutting-edge classroom. Okay, these individual studies are really powerful. But what happens when you combine all the research out there? That's called a meta-analysis, and it's basically the gold standard of scientific evidence. It lets us see the really big picture.
And very recently, the prestigious journal Nature, it doesn't get much more credible than that, published exactly that. This thing reviewed 51 different high-quality studies to pull all the data together and get a definitive answer.
And here is the key takeaway from that huge analysis. It turns out that how you use the AI tutor matters a lot. You can see the different strategies here. Just general use is good, sure, but when you use the AI specifically for what's called problem-based learning, the effect size just explodes to 1.113. That is an enormous effect.
So what does a number like that actually mean in the real world? It means you can take a perfectly average student, someone right in the middle at the 50th percentile, and with the right AI tutor approach, you can boost their performance all the way into the top 13% of the class. You're basically turning an average student into a top tier one.
Now, this is obviously huge for school, but the implications go way, way beyond the classroom. We could be on the verge of a profound economic revolution. And to really understand that, we should look at the work of MIT economist David Autor.
Author's central argument is that AI won't just replace experts, it's going to democratize expertise. It can take all that complicated knowledge that's normally held by a small group of elite professionals and, as he says, enable a larger set of workers to perform those same high-stakes tasks.
And this leads to his second, even more radical point. This technology could fundamentally reduce the monopoly held by elite experts. You know that monopoly that's built on years and years of super expensive, exclusive education? AI tutors threaten to break that wide open, making that knowledge accessible to way more people, way more quickly.
So let's pull all these different threads together. What does all this actually mean? What it means is that we are looking at the very real possibility of creating a new, leveled-up society, and it's all being driven by software.
The ripple effects from this are just enormous, and it's worth taking a minute to really think about them. First, and maybe this is the most important one, it could dramatically reduce inequality. Education is one of the biggest drivers of income and wealth, so if you make world-class teaching available to everyone for almost free, you're directly attacking that gap. Second, imagine the explosion in innovation. When you level up the skills of an entire population, you suddenly have millions more people capable of solving our hardest problems, things like housing or even defending ourselves from misinformation. Third, this has a massive effect on national growth. The data here is pretty clear. If a country's average test scores go up by 1 standard deviation, its annual GDP growth can increase by up to 2%. That is a nation-changing number. And finally, this even touches on national defense. You could scale up elite training programs for the military or intelligence communities, creating a more advanced and capable workforce to deal with the complex threats of the future.
So let's end with this. The evidence is becoming overwhelming that AI tutors are not just some small, incremental improvement. They represent a fundamental step change in our ability to learn and build skills. So if this technology can truly unlock human potential on a global scale, if we can finally break down the economic and geographic barriers to real expertise, the question isn't just about getting better grades. The real question is, what kind of future are we capable of building?